our core values are what make Christopher Equipment. Like they're responsive, easy to do business with, and quality equipment. 2 or 3 years ago, we had 4 locations at the time. Our total Google review count was less than 100. And in 2 years, we've gotten it up over 1,000 for everyone. Wow. And I look through them, and almost every review references one of our 3 uniques. And the customer doesn't know what our 3 uniques are. We know what they are, but they reference it because that's what they see in our company.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It always makes me smile.
Hi, welcome to the Music City Work Club podcast. I am your host, Robert Hartline, fellow EOS implementer, and I have today my friend and client, Grant Christopher with Christopher Equipment. How are you?
I'm doing great. Enjoyed our sauna and cold plunge earlier. Got me woken up.
Yeah. First thing I did was like, dude, you want to get in the cold tub? And you were like, sure.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm a fan.
Yeah, I know you do it on your own. That's why I appreciate you. You do difficult things, and that's why I think we get along so well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I enjoy the rush. I enjoy the discipline. I think it builds some character.
Yeah, so tell me the story of Christopher Equipment.
Yeah, so my dad grew up in rental. He worked in rental his entire life. He ended up buying the business. He started that in 1990, and that became location 1 for Christopher Equipment. So obviously being born into that, I worked there my entire life. My dad, before I started working, added a 2nd location and a 3rd location. And then I came in about 2016 after college and started taking it more serious past just, laboring as a normal, employee to more of a leadership position and trying to put my mark on the company. So I started that in 2016, managing one of the branches. And then we opened up a 4th in 2018 and a 5th in 2025. So just been trying to grow it and put my mark on it. I purchased the business from my dad in 2023. We do construction equipment rental. We service homeowners, contractors, municipalities, factories, pretty much anyone. Our target customer is going to be mid-sized commercial contractors, though.
Now, when you were growing up, do you remember? You spent a lot of time there growing up, and you've probably done every single role there. When was the moment you were like, maybe I'm going to do this, longer term, like that it's going to be your career? When did you kind of make that decision? Were you thinking about that in high school, or did that happen after?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I didn't really even make that decision until middle of college. I was still a little unsure what I wanted to do. Obviously, pretty much my entire work history was related to equipment rental in some aspect, but I guess I never really fully committed till midway through college. And even then, I was still young and a little immature, so I had some developing to do. But I came back after that and really started enjoying it from leadership perspective and gaining a little bit of control past just doing what I'm told the whole time. So that's really when I started to take off.
Now, how has that transition been, acquiring it from your dad, and then did you have another vision for it than he had, or what does that look like?
No, so I would say growing up, my dad's always been my mentor. We've always gotten along really great. I don't think we ever had a single argument in the business, which is hard to say. Most family businesses can't say that. So he was, whatever I learned from him, and it kind of turned into like, what got you here is not going to get you where you want to go. We had always kind of grown year over year. COVID was an accelerator for our business. We grew pretty rapidly during that. But the problem is during COVID, that really kind of developed some bad habits because you didn't really have to have too much of a strategy or a vision to execute well and do good because the business was just everywhere. They just called you or walked in your door and you're like, man, I'm just doing great here. And then COVID kind of ended and I saw 1% growth the next year. And I was like, oh, that's not acceptable for me. This is a wake-up call. So started doing some research, joined a peer group, which has been awesome for me. And one of the first things they told me was to start on the EOS journey, which sounded very cult-like at the time because they were all on it, and they're like, you need to do EOS, it'll solve all your problems. And so I was like, oh, all right, I'll try it, and went down the self-implementation route for a couple months and decided that's not going to work for us. And then that's when we found you. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And what have you noticed just in general about the way you lead today than maybe the way you led a year ago?
So one of the first things I noticed when we started down this EOS journey and started with the accountability chart was, I think I was in like 14 seats. So I was bottlenecking our company pretty badly. And obviously I was stressed. Like, how can I even think about scaling when I'm, at my capacity already? Because, I'm ambitious. I want to grow, but like it was just out of the equation. So getting it on paper that like, hey, Grant, you're sitting in 14 seats at this company. Like, that's not a sustainable path forward. So started learning to delegate better because I was not a good delegator. I was like, well, I'll do better. I'll knock it out real quick. You go spend your whole day doing things like that, and then you don't get anything done that's going to move the needle forward on your company. You're just putting out fires here, taking over some busy work there because, I'll do it a little better. So the first part of EOS was understanding, like, I need to get some of this off my plate and understand that maybe they won't do it as good as me, but if they do 80% as good as me and I can focus on this other stuff, then that's a win for the company. So it's been, we're coming up on a year under EOS, so it's been transformational what we've been able to accomplish by delegating tasks out to people, holding them accountable, getting the right people on the team, getting the wrong people off the team. And I'm way less stressed and we're way busier than we've ever been.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What did you discover your unique ability was?
My unique ability. I think I've always been pretty good at having a vision in my head of where I wanted the company to go, or like what it needed to look like to do this. And my problem was, like, it's great that it's in my head, but we need to put that vision out to the company so everybody can be rowing the same direction as me, because if I just have it in my head, they don't have any idea of what I'm trying to accomplish. So I've always had a good idea of like where we needed to be. And then like joining the peer group and seeing people that were where I wanted to be now and seeing the steps they took has also made it a lot easier, because there's no really unique experiences in business. Everybody kind of encounters the same problems and stuff. So being able to look at them, solve the problems quicker. Obviously the IDS section of like our L10s are good with that. And we just chew through the problems now. So
well, part of the process of EOS is shared by all. And I really respect you greatly because you had this really great event to showcase your VTO with the whole team. You did it exactly by the book. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs that are going through the EOS process don't listen to me when I say we got to roll it out with a level of energy that they really will remember. And you had everyone at your facility, you had food, you had presentations, and I think that carried forward in the energy that you're seeing in your sales are kicking ass right now. And I think that's no mistake to not only your leadership, but getting everyone on that same trajectory to understand what they're rowing for, because so many people just kind of go through the motions of the VTO, but they don't really embody it. And I think that has a lot to do with the way you're leading now, because you're talking about the vision a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say, like, on culture building, I would say our culture is a 10 out of 10 right now. A lot of really good engagement and positivity. One of our rocks this quarter was everybody know our core values and 3 uniques, and I think we're just about there. So that'll be 40 employees that should be able to recite it at any time. We have a core value call out section in our company messaging app, and it's regularly used to call out other employees for exemplifying like a positive core value or pictures of that. And it's just been really good because I'm not even facilitating the responses. They're just going in and putting it in there themselves. And it just really creates a positive environment that people, work is work, but if you enjoy who you work with and what you're doing, like it just makes such a big difference. I mean, a lot of these guys, including myself, like we could spend more time with the guys at work than we do our families sometimes, and so you want to make it as good of an environment as you can. And, I was one of those people that they get core values on the wall, that's just something they got to do, it's not a big part of their business. And, but it is if you cascade it down right. And it's been such a game changer for us. And, we were hiring for a new role, outside sales rep at one of our locations. And I think we had 2 people from the interview mention they saw our core values and really resonated with them. So it gets noticed, even if you don't really think it will.
Yeah. And so what do the core values mean for you? Like when you're talking to a potential new hire, how do you talk about core values?
Yeah, so typically, it's a little tough question, but we try to use the core values and examples for like behaviors or stuff we would want to see. Obviously, we use them in like the people analyzers to judge our current employees' performance and being able to explain to them like, hey, we need to work on grit. You're a plus minus this quarter. Here's some things I think you could do better to get up to a plus next quarter. So it really kind of helped us. Like our core values are what make Christopher Equipment. Like it's not just stuff we made up. It's stuff that like we see and feel, but it's not like we've never labeled it before. So once we started labeling it, we're quickly able to identify like, hey, this guy's not fitting in or something because like he's lacking in this trait that is like important to us as a company. So I don't know. It just helped us label things better, I guess, and understand it of like what makes a good Christopher Equipment employee good. And we just try to tie in some examples, ask for like how the previous or the potential applicant, how they've like exhibited certain traits, in their previous jobs, stuff like that.
And from a customer's perspective, how do they feel your core values?
So I would say the customers feel our core values just by the way our staff behaves. And I would even say like they probably feel the 3 uniques even more. Ours are responsive, easy to do business with, and quality equipment. Okay. So just a little example here. So like 2 or 3 years ago, we had 4 locations at the time. Our total Google review count was less than 100. And in 2 years, we've gotten it up over 1,000 for everyone. Wow. And I looked through them, and almost every review references one of our 3 uniques. And the customer doesn't know what our 3 uniques are. We know what they are, but they reference it because that's what they see in our company. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It always makes me smile. So.
No, I think that's great. I mean, your core values are there when you are not. Like if you have a guy doing a delivery and something happens in the delivery, which something will happen, and there's going to be an interaction with the client. And I always say that the core values should be sitting in the seat next to that team member. So when he's at a situation where he has to make a call or a decision, he can just look at the core values and go, all right, this is what I need to do. And not all companies, so many companies do slap the thing on the wall. And we went through a very specific process to figure out what the core values were. We didn't create core values. They were already there for Christopher Equipment. They've been there since the very beginning. And the whole idea and the identity of the organization is for the company to be themselves. Just like I'm trying to do when I work with clients and get you, Grant, to be yourself, because your people will be drawn to you, not only your clients, but as you grow as a leader, we are magnetic just being ourselves. And if your company is trying to be something it isn't, it's just like you wearing a mask and it doesn't have the same impact. And, I just commend you for that commitment for that. So what do you see? I would imagine you're in a competitive space. I would imagine that people, when they even are looking for a piece of equipment for their job site, maybe Google it and they pop some options. Why you versus someone else? What would be the thing that someone would choose Christopher Equipment?
Yeah, so that goes directly back to our 3 uniques. We do offer a younger fleet for our customers, so quality equipment. We're responsive, which sounds obvious because it's such a standard for us now. But I mean, I've dealt with other rental companies and they're not responsive. And I've dealt with other vendors of, equipment dealers. And it's like, I'm trying to beg them to give me a quote. It's like, come on, man, you're supposed to be selling me.
Right.
I'm having to follow up on you to get information so I can buy something from you.
Right.
So responsive and easy to do business with. And, an example of easy to do business with is like, where can we remove friction in our process to make the customer's life quicker and easier? Because everybody's in a rush. Time is money on a job site. And one thing that I realized was credit applications. We've been trying to get new customers to sign up accounts with us. Nobody likes filling out a 2 or 3 page credit application. That's the last thing they want to stop and do. So we've figured out this whole process of how do we streamline this and do as much work for that customer and get them an answer as quick as possible. Because I've filled out my fair share of credit applications, and I'm always pretty frustrated because like now I got to stop and fill out this silly document, and it takes like a week to even hear an answer. And it's like, man, it's just the little things like that really make doing business with a company either really good or really bad, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, I think so many people mess that up. And I think there's something to be said too, the way you serve your clients is the way you're going to grow the business. And there's got to be a level of satisfaction that your employees get by serving. And in your core values, what is the piece that do you think makes the most impact when it comes of an employee? What's the most important core value you feel you have?
Man, I like them all. So ours spell out growth. It's grit, respect, ownership, work ethic, team player, and heart. So they all are extremely important to me. I don't even know if I could pick out one because if one of them's missing, it's still pretty detrimental to our business. So I don't even know if I could pick one.
Well, I mean, I think the growth is what stands out to me ever since you started this journey. Like you have not stopped growing, and like professionally, there's this level of growth, and personally, there's a level of growth. And, a vast majority of your staff are, in their 20s, right? Mm-hmm. And they look at you as running this business, and you're like their leader, right? And you're growing, and I can tell that there's a level of accountability that exists that maybe wasn't there as much, but now these guys that are working for you, they're growing. And I think it has a lot to do with the disciplines that you're putting in place, because before EOS, before you started with that, when did you meet with them regularly?
I had started what would now label as like quarterly state of the companies. And even that had started to make a positive impact, but that was in, within like the first year or the year previous of starting EOS. So we had not done a whole lot of that. It was, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious because this is the journey that lots of people did. In fact, when I started my wireless business, I self-implemented EOS. What was the journey like? Because when you went from maybe not as many disciplines to self-implementation, what was different about me helping you with EOS in terms of like bringing that discipline in versus how you did it? What was the challenge?
I think the extra layer of accountability was a big part. We were struggling to have those weekly meetings and follow the actual format, and we just needed that accountability to actually like follow this program to a T and not just kind of pick and choose what sounded good or what was most convenient at the time. The hard conversations at the beginning were much needed, and they probably wouldn't have happened without some coaching and stuff from you. So that was really beneficial. And obviously just you're a good mentor and coach as well. So even if you remove EOS, it's still been beneficial to have someone like you to talk to.
Well, I mean, this is kind of an interesting thing to even dive into, is this idea of difficult conversations as a leader. And it had to have been a little bit harder for you because you're not that far off in age from these guys. And a lot of them, some of them you worked alongside with them, and then you go into this, you're moving into their boss / now write their checks. Mm-hmm. How did that how was it hard for you to start having uncomfortable conversations?
So it was, I was never the best at it. I was always, I'd make some excuses for them, like, oh, they're just having a bad day. I knew it probably needed to be dealt with, but I was so busy with every other thing that it clearly wasn't a priority for me to deal with. So I became like, we're so busy now. I'm trying to get so much done. I know where I want to go. I don't have time to be putting up with like this reoccurring issue. So I'm way more inclined to just have that difficult conversation, keep going with my life, because I've also realized the effect that not having that difficult conversation with that employee or whoever, it affects the entire team, and you don't even realize that until after you've dealt with it. So that's been a big eye opener, is like, getting these bad apples off the team or whatever it happens to be is leveling up the rest of the team, and they're also taking the seat of a potential A player that could be waiting outside to be hired. And it's like, why are we putting up with these C players when I could have an A player in that seat and
100%.
we could be off to the races?
Yeah, 100%. How has that affected your team when you've leveled up the team?
There's been some of my most tenured employees, 20 years or more. I've been really impressed with their ability to respond and adapt to the changes I put into place. Obviously, we had a lot of turnover at the beginning, which was all much needed, but there's been some that are still impressing me. I'm like, you don't think of some of the, that we've always done it this way, why are you changing it now? This is stupid. But they've been some of my fastest adopters, and one of my fastest growing stores now is one of my oldest, most tenured managers, and he's just curious, and he's learning all these new things for the first time, and he's just taking it serious, and man, he's just killing it right now.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, what's the future look like?
Yeah, so obviously we want to keep growing, adding stores if needed, really looking into adding more sales rep, outside sales. I feel like the rental industry is a very reactive industry. We sit by the phones, we wait for someone to walk in. If they're there, we try to take care of them. Otherwise, we're just reactive, and kind of switching our business from a reactive business to a proactive business. How can we go out there and talk with our customers, talk to new customers, get their business, serve them well? That's where I see the future, is a proactive sales business for us.
And more having an outside team.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like to have an outside sales team member? Like, how would you describe the kind of person that thrives?
Yeah, so they need to be comfortable with rejection. They need to be very good networking people. They also need to have a layer of detail ability, because sending the right piece of equipment out to the job the first time is very important, because you send them, a telehandler that can lift 5,000 pounds and they needed one that can lift 10,000 pounds. Well, we've just wasted everybody's time. They're not happy. They're getting delays on their job site. So there's several attributes. We use Culture Index to try to look what kind of personality would be the best for these roles. And that's been really helpful. So we can, during the application process, we look and see, do these surveys match up with the ideal survey type. And then we start selecting that, or we use that as to help us select the right people.
Do they have to have equipment rental experience?
No, my sales rep right now came from the clothing industry, sold wholesale clothes. He's doing great.
Wow. So how many are you looking to hire?
That's a good question. We're going to add another one right now. That'll put us to 2. For the future, we could be up to 6 or 8. We'll just have to see.
Mm-hmm. So what's your 10-year vision?
That's a very good question. We've set the 10-year vision, and we're almost a year in this EOS process, and then you learn new things. You're like, man, I probably didn't set that good. And we've adjusted things. When we first started self-implementing EOS, my 10-year vision, I think I could do in 3 years now. So it's just the bar is always moving. It's we're just getting so much more done than we ever thought possible, because you're using your historical lens to view what you can accomplish in a year, when that's just changing so rapidly now with the right people on the team. we're just going to keep that gas pedal down and keep adding locations, keep making everybody's lives better if we can, and see where we end up in 10 years.
This is so funny you're saying this, because I had a 10-year vision, and mine was to grow. I wanted to grow to 100 million in sales, and I thought it was a 10-year thing, and it ended up being a 3-year thing. And the first year, you're trying to think incrementally. You think, well, I grew this percentage last year. Then, you get the calculator out and you figure it out, and you're like, okay, this is what it will be. But what you don't realize the energy that happens when you got the core values straight, you got the right people on the team, you got the right messaging and core language that happens in your level 10 meeting every week, and you're doing the disciplines, and you actually have rocks, or the 3 to 7 key priorities every single quarter. You actually start doing that tempo, and you're like, so much is possible. And that's why, like, we have a annual coming up soon. Mm-hmm. And in that annual experience, we're literally going to look at it again and be like, all right, is this right?
Yeah, that's tough.
And that's the big transition that my clients face at that 1 year. They have such unbelievable shifts, and sometimes we're in that annual with brand new people. Sometimes it's got a few new people, and now we're like, oh gosh, because we're getting these rocks done. It was like, well, now what's possible? So I've never had an annual that we didn't radically change the 10-year, because now we have so much more to learn from. And I've been really into this. This new book, Science of Scaling, Ben Hardy, who wrote 10X Easier to 2X with Dan Sullivan. And I actually got to speak with him here in Nashville. He was doing a talk, and I was like, for a lot of people that do EOS, your conversation about your 10-year vision is kind of silly. Well, he called it stupid. You can do it in 3 years, because the goal will equal options. If it's done in 3 years, and you have to think about it, you got to do it in 3 years instead of 10. You just have less things you can actually do that would actually give you that outcome.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm excited to us to navigate that, because we had a great conversation in the sauna about different ways to scale, and you're thinking that way, and you have time to think that way. And that's really the genesis of all of this, is when you get that time to actually think strategically and not in the weeds like you were before, then the opportunities really start to line out.
Oh yeah, I agree. It definitely narrows your options when you want to scale that fast and bring your 10 to 3 year. But it does excite me. So
yeah. Okay. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Guys, if you're in Nashville, Tennessee, you're an entrepreneur, you're a creator, you're looking for a place to do your work, we are the only place in town that you can combine your morning routine with a place to work. We have 12,000 square feet here in the Nations where you can podcast, sauna, cold plunge, work out, have coffee with a friend. We're open 24/7. Is there another place to work? I don't know. But if you're interested and curious, please visit us at musiccityworkclub.com.